What's up guys, my name is Ace and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Modern Warfare 2. And in today's episode, we're going to be moving on to the Lockwood MK2. And let's start this off with our one-shot kill areas with this gun. And it turns out in the maximum damage range from 0 to 24 meters, our one-shot kill potential is just the upper torso, neck, and the head. If we contrast this with the other one-shot kill marksman rifles, both the SPR and the SAB can get a one-shot kill to the shoulders in this range, so that is one big downside to using the Lockwood MK2. As for the second damage range from 24 meters to about 46 meters, unfortunately we can only get a one-shot kill to the neck or the head, and then finally beyond that 45.7 meter range, you have to hit them in the head if you want a one-shot kill. So pretty clearly, this gun doesn't excel in this area compared to the bolt-action marksman rifles, but at least we still have a one-shot kill potential. However, one big upside we have with this compared to the bolt-actions is our rate of fire is very noticeably faster at 95 rounds per minute. This means there's a 630 millisecond rechamber time between each shot. And honestly, this is pretty quick for a weapon that has a one-shot kill potential. And if you get a hit marker or just miss your shot on an unaware enemy, oftentimes, by the time they react, you will have an opportunity to get a second shot off. Now, in a straight-up face-to-face 50-50 gunfight, though, against somebody using a regular full-auto gun, you're probably not going to get that second shot opportunity. But I did want to point out that you at least have a much higher chance of getting a second shot off with this compared to one of the bolt actions. Next up, let's have a look at our aim down sight time, which is very fast for a gun with a one-shot kill potential to the body at 280 milliseconds. That is one area where this gun absolutely shines, and it's a similar story with the Sprintout times. These are also very fast for a marksman rifle at 169 milliseconds for our standard Sprintout time and 244 milliseconds for our tactical Sprintout time. Then let's have a look at our bullet velocity, which is a little bit slower than some of the other marksman rifles at 600 meters per second. But honestly, when you look at the effective ranges of this gun, as well as the lines of sight that you'll see in a 6v6 map, this is still a very solid bullet velocity that should generally not be causing any issues for you. As for our hipfire, as you can see here, it's unfortunately lumped in with the EBR-14 and TAC-M, and that means it's among the worst for hipfire spread in the marksman rifle category. So unless you're point blank range or using some kind of a laser or something to tighten up your hipfire spread, you probably want to be aiming down sight with this gun. Then after that, let's have a look at our mobility stats, and across the board, we are above average for the marksman rifle category with this, especially with our aim walking movement speed. It actually has a pretty solid aim walking movement speed for a marksman rifle. And that, combined with many of the other stats, really suggests that this is a gun that's designed to be a lot more aggressive with compared to many other marksman rifles. Now, let's move into our reload time, and this gun has a lot going on with reloads because we don't reload like a detachable box magazine or anything. We do have to load each round individually. And the first thing to point out is the first round that you load into the gun, if it's not empty to begin with, this only takes about 0.75 seconds. So that's pretty quick to just pop a round back in the tube. However, I did want to point out the discrepancy here. If you fire the gun all the way until it's empty, that same first round that you need to reload is now going to take you about 2 seconds to get into the gun. So it's very noticeably slower there. And then it's also worth noting that each additional round will take roughly half a second to load into the gun. For some reason, it does vary from round to round, so I just sort of averaged it there, but it's about half a second per round on top of that. And what this means is if we fire our gun all the way to empty and then we let our character reload it all the way up to 6 rounds again, this is going to take a total of 4.54 seconds, which is a very slow full reload in this game. However, if we don't fire it all the way till empty, we just take it down to 1 round, we're going to reload significantly faster because we don't have that first round empty reload that takes a lot longer. And you can reload those 5 rounds in under 3 seconds. So that's sort of the lesson with the reloads here. Try not to fire until you're completely empty. Instead, make sure you're reloading just whenever you get an opportunity. After that, let's move on to the unique attachments that affect our aim down sight time on this gun. So we're going to look at barrels, stocks, combs, as well as the guard section. And as we can see here, 2 of the barrels will improve our aim down sight time, whereas the other 3 will all harm our aim down sight time. 2 of the stocks as well as 2 of the combs will also improve our aim down sight time, and 1 of the combs will be harming it by quite a bit. And then finally, out of the 3 guards, 1 of them harms our aim down sight time by 70 milliseconds, 1 of them doesn't affect our aim down sight time at all, and then the other one will give us an 8 millisecond improvement to our aim down sight time. So definitely a pretty big discrepancy here between the attachments that improve our aim down sight time versus the one that harm them, but I think that's largely due to the fact that we start off with such a good aim down sight time to begin with. Next, I want to have a look at our barrel attachments and how they impact our ranges, and as we can see here, the first barrel, the 13.5-inch Lone Star barrel, this one does harm our damage range by 14%, and this gun really can't afford to lose a whole lot to that damage range since our one-shot kill potential to the body is so minimal. However, the 25-inch Buffalo barrel, this one will improve our ranges by 20%, so that's a nice boost and definitely a great option with this gun. And then finally with the EXF Alamo barrel, this one will reduce our damage range by 15%. Now finally, for the stats section of the video, let's have a look at the different levers that we can use. We have the Stallion, which reduces our rate of fire very slightly down to 92 rounds per minute, whereas the Longhorn will improve our rate of fire up to 102 rounds per minute. And the only thing you sacrifice there is rechamber accuracy, which, as we established in the previous episode, it's not really all that important. It's probably not going to affect your ability to get kills at all. And with that, it's finally time to get into some excellent attachment combinations I've got for you guys with the Lockwood MK2. And I want to start this off with my balanced build. This is the kind of build that you can use on pretty much any map, any mode, and you should be able to find some success with it as long as you're making sure you line up those upper torso, neck, or head shots. And with this, we've got that 25-inch Buffalo barrel. That's mainly for the range boost, because that really helps this gun out a lot. We've got the VLK Laser 7mm, the Slimline Pro Optic, the Lockwood Bullseye Stock, and the Longhorn Lever. And with this, our aim down sight time is still very, very reasonable at 302 milliseconds. Our rate of fire is improved, our damage range is improved by 20%, and our muzzle velocity is also improved here. And a big thing with this build as well is our aiming stability is very nicely improved, and that definitely helps out a lot with this gun. And honestly, there's not too much else to say about this build. Like I said, it's just a nice balanced build that you can use in a wide variety of maps and modes. As for the next one I wanted to share for you guys, this one's a little bit more niche, but a lot of people like using it this way. This is my Canted Build. And with this, we're obviously using that canted laser. We've got the Lockwood Frontiersman barrel, the cut-off stock mod, the Longhorn lever, and finally the Lockwood Commando guard. And with this particular build, our aim down sight time is very noticeably improved. It's now 219 milliseconds, which is really, really quick. Our Sprintout Time is also amazingly fast. This is faster than all of the SMGs in the game at 100 milliseconds for our standard Sprintout Time, and only 146 milliseconds for our tactical Sprintout Time. Once again, our rate of fire is improved here as well at 102 rounds per minute, and there's also a bunch of mobility improvements with this as well, and that's not even to mention the tighter hipfire we get with that canted laser. So this is the type of setup I would use in a much more close quarters sort of a map. Like if you're playing on Shipment and Shoot House especially, I definitely recommend this build. However, it can be used on other maps as long as you play the situations right. You probably don't want to be taking really long range shots with this. But with this, it does allow you to run around very aggressively, and you almost treat it like a slug shotgun instead of a marksman rifle. And if you do, and you manage to have decent accuracy for that upper torso, you should be able to find a good amount of success with it. And with that, that's going to wrap it up for today's gun guide on the Lockwood MK2. As for my thoughts on this gun, I kind of have some mixed feelings. On the one hand, I find it really fun and enjoyable. It's a really unique gun to use. You can be running around really aggressively, getting those one-shot kills if you can hit the upper torso. But on the other hand, it is a hitmarker machine. If you're not perfectly on point with your shot, you're going to be punished pretty harshly. And while your rechamber time is pretty quick, it's not quite quick enough to save you in most situations or most face-to-face gunfights you find yourself in. And therefore, I just find while I'm using this gun, I would just much rather have something like an SPR or an SAB in my hand. Even though they have a much slower rechamber time and a slightly slower aim down sight time, they're just far more consistent with this. So it's not that I hate this gun, I just don't think it's very competitive when you put it up against many of the other guns in the game. Now, of course, those are just my thoughts on the Lockwood MK2, and I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in the comments down below. Also, if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes of Gun Guides, I will leave a link to the playlist in the description of the video, and if you guys enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.